is a sheet of paper and a business card on your table in front of you. There are 2 QR codes on the back of the piece of paper. One of them is to utilize our free program, which I'm actually not going to talk about today. And then the other one is if you'd like to know more about the services I am going to talk to you about today. And the business card is me, and there's my email address on there if anybody wants to email me. And then there's a QR code on the back of that to set a time to talk to our sales team. So I'm going to get rolling. You all don't mind. So I'm going to start off the 5-hour live podcasting with a little bit of a backstory to really set the stage here, because I really do believe that asking this question is false equivalency. Okay, so saying that is there an actual return on investment for podcasting is an incredibly loaded question. I am going to answer it, but I think without context, it won't make any sense. All right, there's a little bit of a delay here that I'm working with. All right, so I'm going to show you my journey. So one of the big things that we talk about here at Proudmouth is accelerating influence. I'm not talking about being the next TikTok dancer, even though, sir, I bet you can dance like nobody's business. I'm not talking about being the next Instagram model, the Kardashian. I'm saying you guys compete in what's called the expertise economy, which means you have to be more influential. More influential you are, you will stop talking to skeptics and you will start interacting with fans. Okay? Is the entire foundation of everything that we built over the last 7 years. All right? This is my influence journey. Okay, so very recently I was listed as one of the top 41 most influential people in financial services. I didn't know about it. I'm really grateful for it. It makes me terribly uncomfortable. Because this journey is going to show you how really bizarre all of this is. So, in 2011, I published the first book in social media called The Social Media Handbook for Financial Advisors. It was the worst title ever. I didn't come up with it. I got published by Bloomberg Finance, super excited, and I was like, I made it. Made it, I got a book, woohoo, that's it, I don't need anything else. Nothing. I did get a speech out of it, which I am grateful for. The second thing that happened, I published my second book, The 99 Best Ideas for Financial Advisors, and it was a marketing book. I did come up with that title. The book didn't do very well because I guess advisors don't like comic book setups. I'm a big comic book guy, swing and a miss. But people actually started paying attention to me at this point. So like my LinkedIn connections really increased, my Twitter connections really increased, but it wasn't just that, I was like getting people talking to me, all right? I was like, okay, this is really cool. And then, sorry. So then in 2017, I met this really strange Canadian guy at a conference. And we decided that we were going to shut down his marketing and branding company that was called Tactor Brand. I was going to shut down my practice management coaching company, which was called Top Advisor Coaching, and we created Top Advisor Marketing. So we started a podcast, Mod Marketing for the 21st Century. Okay? We did 50 episodes. You will not find it anywhere. We burned every one of those because they were terrible, but we learned a lot. What we really, really learned is we talk for a living. How many of you talk for a living? Really should raise your hand. I listen for a living, but I'm not going to beat you guys up for that. That's totally different thing. But you do talk for a living, and we're sitting there, we're like, okay, so we're using this to build our own company, and we started getting some traction. Why don't we just systematize everything and start pumping out as much content as we could? So, what ends up happening is, I'm at a conference. Mark, where's Mark? Here. Hey, okay, I'm putting you on the spot. So Mark is our influence liberator and our director of national sales. Can you please share the story about what happened at the first FPA national meeting?
Yep, no problem. So 2 weeks in, brand new. I didn't even know what we did yet, really. And we had the booth, and it was all great, and Matt's there, and he's looking like this, and I'm like, what is going on? So some guy comes in, and like, I think it was a flying high five, if I'm not mistaken, hugging, like they're talking, like business, personal, they're laughing, 10 minutes. He leaves, I go, Matt, is that like a high school boy? He goes, Mark, I've never met that guy in my life. I don't know what his name is. I'm like, are you kidding me? So that to me was proof there of the influence journey. So Matt had a fan because he listened to so many of our Top Advisor Marketing podcasts. He felt like he knew Matt, he knew his business, he knew him. So that's really what we do, is we create that influence.
And I wanted to use that story, not to shine any light on me specifically, is because he felt he knew me. I put out content when it's convenient for you to consume it, which is whenever the hell you want. Okay? So this gentleman listened to 400 episodes of our show. I haven't even listened to the 400 episodes of our show. He knew things about my kids. He knew things about my wife. He knows that I do metal art. And then not only that, but he's a fan. So he started paying attention when I was on what we call OPPs, other people's podcasts, which I talk about very, very different things sometimes. And it was really freaking cool. And it was so wonderful because we just hired Mark. I'm like, dude, we got to keep the sales guy. We got to keep the sales guy. We got to impress the sales guy. And that was within minutes of our first conference. So here's the deal. We want you to stop talking to skeptics and actually interacting with fans. That's what all of you want too, right? So we're really good friends with White Glove. White Glove, you do an educational workshop. Who are you sitting in front of? Skeptics or fans? Yeah, damn right you're sitting next to skeptics. They don't know who you are from Adam, right? Do you make them a fan during the whole presentation? Probably not as much as you could, but that's why you need to have a great follow-up system. So a lot of you will do these educational workshops, and you'll do 40 buying units, and 10 will make appointments, and maybe 2 will become clients. Okay, that's great. What happened to the other 38 people? Yeah, they didn't set an appointment. They don't want to meet with me. No, it's called life. Your timeline might not be their timeline. Why don't you continue to educate them by providing great free content by doing what you all do every day, answering questions and talking. Fair? All right. All right. Right now, most of you have to sell hard. How many of you have taken a sales training course in your career? Yeah. How many of you have sold something to somebody and afterwards you went, anybody? I mean, I'm not actually videotaping. Actually, I am videotaping this. But this isn't one of those fiduciary things where I'm going to get you in trouble. We've all done that. I have absolutely sold podcasting to somebody who wasn't going to be a great fit because I had bills to pay. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, Mark gets inbound calls from people who already know who we are and what we do. And instead of having to sell them, which was his background, he just provides information and guidance, and people choose to buy from us. How many of you would love it if you got a phone call and said, what's your name? Dustin. You know, Dustin, I've been listening to your podcast for a while. I went to one of your workshops like 2 years ago. This is an estate planning workshop. Well, it wasn't the right time. But you know, over the last 2 years, I feel like I've really gotten to know you. I have $3 million I'd like to roll over. Would you be interested in it? Okay? That's actually a real story from one of our clients. And that happens over and over and over again. But as I said from the stage today, it's slow marketing. This does not happen quickly, because this is what ends up happening. We are going to be feeding ideal prospects into your pipeline. These are people who you magnetically attract. We're also going to help you scale your credibility, because most of you, again, your biggest issue is that you are talking to people when it is convenient for you. It's not how the world works anymore. Okay? And I also really want you to stay focused on what you do best. I'm assuming you're an intelligent person.
Sometimes.
Good answer. So here's the deal. I guarantee you everything that we do for you on this sheet of paper, you could totally figure out on your own. Totally, right? Is that the best use of your time?
No.
Probably not. What's the best use of your time?
Delegating to somebody who's
And that's, yay! I totally didn't pay him for that. He said delegating to somebody who knows how to do it. Also meeting with clients, I'm assuming,
Yes.
right? Closing business, building relationships, okay? What if you could really stay in that lane and create really good engaging content by doing what you all talk about every day? So we have a presentation for those of you who aren't on our mailing list. You should, because we do these webinars, and one of them is the top 10 things you need to have your podcast convert clients, okay? It's very, very popular. And I go through your first 12 episodes. I tell you exactly what your first 12 episodes should be. It's entirely for free. And most of them have to do with you just distilling your thought leadership. That's it. How many of you are sitting in a client meeting? You. How many of you are sitting in a client meeting and you're like, dude, if they ask me that question one more freaking time and I have to say that same damn thing one more time? Has that ever happened to you, sir?
More than occasion.
So why don't we scale that communication? Why don't you put that in a package? And then give that package to people. Like we have a client right now who uses his first 3 podcasts as his entire funnel for the beginning of making an appointment. You cannot set an appointment with him until you listen to those 3 podcasts. Because when people get through that system, they know who he is, they know what he does, they know what he does it for, who he does it for, they understand his financial planning process, and this will scare a lot of you. He also talks about his fee structure in those first 3 podcasts. So if somebody sets an appointment on his calendar, what do you think the probability of him closing that is? Pretty high. Scarily high, actually. All right. You can read this. I mean, I hope you can all read. I probably can. All right. So this is what most of you are doing right now. I am on a mission. I just watched the Blues Brothers on the plane. I've been wanting to say this. I'm on a mission from God. I love that movie. It's on the plane. I was so excited to watch it. Just the great music. I was dancing in my seat, really pissed the guy off next to me, but whatever. So this is what most of you guys are doing, is you guys have fits and starts marketing. You'll come to a conference like this. You're gonna see some amazingly attractive Muppet guy like me, and I'm gonna convince you that podcasting is the greatest thing in the world. You're gonna go home, you're gonna do it for about 30 days. It doesn't work, you quit. This happens all the time. I can't tell you how many people do this. They come to conferences, and really, especially when it comes to the seminar, you guys saw it today, right before, I don't know if you guys saw it when we were up on stage, but there was a white glove commercial about 8 times ROI for every single solitary seminar you do. You guys are probably gonna wanna do that. You know what? Do it, but then keep doing it. Because here's the deal, you do your first seminar, you do your first podcast, you do your first video, you write your first blog, you're gonna suck. Embrace the suck. Because if you suck, you can get better, right? But you guys are doing this instead of doing what you do, most of you, which is financial planning, long term, that you always talk to your clients about. You guys are day trading your marketing. And it's killing you, and it's also costing you an unbelievable amount of money. But most importantly, you're losing acceleration. So we have something that we call escape velocity. All right? So at some point when you are working with your marketing, if you do it for long enough, your marketing becomes weightless. Okay? It doesn't feel like you're marketing anymore. Now, we've done 455 episodes of the Top Advisor Marketing Podcast. I still prepare for every show. I have an exercise bike. I get on it and ride for 20 minutes. I have 3 songs I sing. I'm not going to tell you what they are, and I'm also not going to sing them for you. And then I go ahead and I prepare for the show. I look at the outline, look at the guest, look at the guest profile. I snoop the hell out of them on LinkedIn, just to make sure I'm not missing anything, because it's a show. When it's on, I've done it 1,000 times. Okay? But you have to get to that. You have to practice. One of my favorite people in the whole wide world, athletes, is a lady named Candace Parker. Does anybody know who that is? Yep. Okay, some people do, right? All right. She's like the greatest basketball player of our time right now. Okay? And she has shot 1 million baskets. But every time before she plays a game, can somebody tell me what Candace Parker is doing? She sure is, isn't she? She's hit that shot 1 million times. Why is she doing that? Because she's a pro. That's why she's doing it, right? Those 7 rocket boosters of influence are vitally important, and the reason why they're so important is because I wanted to show you where escape velocity happens. Most of you are here. You are in what we refer to as the expert phase of our influence continuum. Your goal is to get here. Some of you want to get here. Now, I am not saying celebrity is Joe Rogan or Michael Kitces. Let's use he was on stage today, right? Packed house. Freaking Michael Kitces, right? He's a celebrity. It's pretty cool. He's worked really hard for that. Do you know when Michael Kitces published his first blog? Anybody? Really?
What was the question?
When did Michael, what's that?
2001?
Yeah, it was right in the early 2000s when Michael Kitces published his first blog. 2001. How long ago was that? 22 years. Yeah, sorry, I can help you. Totally on the spot. 22 years, and really within the last 3 or 4 years is when Michael Kitces became famous. The problem was he didn't have a system to help him accelerate or influence. That's what we do. We have the system. We practiced on me, We crashed and burned many times. I have failed miserably. I've shot terrible video. I've done terrible podcasts. I've written horrible social media posts, but we fell down, we dusted ourselves off, we looked at what we did wrong, and then we now provide that for you. But most of you guys are in the expert or authority. So some of you have a clear audience. Some of you. It is not women. Women is not a niche. Does anybody know why women is not a niche? Cheryl? I'm sorry, females in finance, Cheryl Hickerson, everybody, somebody else who's famous in financial services. Cheryl, how would you answer that question? Are women a niche?
Women are not a niche. We make all of the people.
You make all of the people? Yeah! God, I love her so much. Most of you are like, well, I focus on women. That also, it's 51% of the population, right? That's actually the majority of people that can't be a niche. A niche has to be something very specific. And if you guys want to know more about that, a lot of people, actually even in this room, we're really good friends of ours who can help you build that niche. A couple of them are back there, please wave. Yeah, right there. Beautiful. So you also need to have a very clear brand and a clear plan. Some of you have that already, but what you really want to get is transformative stuff where you own the audience. So right now, between LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, I have about 100,000 people who follow me. Do I own that audience? Anybody? No, I don't. Do you know who owns that audience? LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. I don't own it. They own it. LinkedIn can shut down. It's 15,000 people. I just lost all connection. Twitter, whatever the hell it's called now, they're desperately trying to shut that down. I got 66,000 followers on Twitter. I don't know any of them. Okay? So what I need to do is I need to use my expertise to drive people into my funnel, right? In order for me to own the audience. Do you know what you have to own an audience? Anybody? What do you have to own the audience? It's one thing. It's on my business card. Yes?
Email address.
Email address. That is absolutely correct. That means that you own that. Okay? That's what all of you are striving towards. It's not to get them to visit your website. It's to have them either download your white paper or opt into your email. Okay? So this is our ultimate goal. Susan Theder said this morning. Laura Galloway talked about this. So many of you look exactly the same online. Exactly the same. Got two old white people holding hands, walking down the beach. You've got a puzzle piece or a freaking oak tree. Now, I'm purposely trying to offend some of you here, so I want you to think about it.
Don't forget the lighthouse.
A lighthouse, thank you. Your financial planning process is just the 6 areas of the CFP. These are things that I'm telling you guys all look the same. So what do you need to do to break free? You need to start creating your own content, and that is the ultimate goal. So here's the deal. This is why you're all here. These are the 5 ROIs of podcasting. And then if I have time, I'm going to give you an actual client story, but I don't know if I'm going to have time. So the first thing is, how many of you have purchased art from a local artist? Anybody? By the way, thank you for doing that. Support local arts, please, 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 okay? Sir, did you expect a return on investment for that?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Is it hanging somewhere?
Yep.
Do you appreciate that? Okay. When you create podcasts, I'm going to talk about podcasts specifically, because if you want to create video, the 2 ladies back here, please raise your hands. These are the greatest video people in financial services. They are a plant. I want you to know that. And so anyway, so here's the deal. You have to be able to create your own content, and the content itself has value. When you do a video with Idea Decanter, right, or if you do podcasting with Proudmouth, you're telling stories. When is the first time you thought storytelling happened for us as human beings? As a child. Let's go back another 15,000 years before that, when we were all beating the hell out of each other, eating raw meat around a fire. What did we do? We told stories. Mastodon, right? Whatever, I don't know. I'm not like an archaeologist or some crap like that. But anyway, right? We've been telling stories forever. So we have something called the perfect podcasting format. Storytelling, education, entertainment, call to action. Storytelling, education, entertainment, call to action. Storytelling is number 1 for a reason, because that content has value. Here's the other thing, if you do it correctly, you do that one podcast and you can turn that one podcast into 10 pieces of social media. Really easily. You can literally put your podcast transcription into freaking ChatGPT with the prompt that says, create more content from this blog. And what'll it do? Blah, blah, and it just put, all sorts of content, right? Second thing, referability. Bill Cates, does anybody know who Bill Cates is? Referral coach. He's written a bunch of books. Sure, I know you know who he is. He's a great guy, right? Oh my God. Google Bill Cates, write it down. He's amazing. He's actually an OG in our industry, National Speaker Hall of Fame. He's written like 4 or 5 books on referral marketing alone. When we brought this to him, because he's a friend of mine, he said, "Matt, it's a lot easier to refer somebody to a podcast than call my guy. Because here's the deal, nobody wants to call you anymore. And it sure as hell not gonna pick up the phone if you call them if they don't know your number. That's just the world we live in, right? It's easier to refer somebody to a podcast than it is to call my guy. Next, greater share of wallet. So one of our clients brought on an estate planning attorney. How many of you have, this is supposed to be freaking interactive, right? So can you guys, you gotta feed me something back. I was dying on stage earlier, it's killing me right now. How many of you have a relationship with an estate planning attorney? Thank you very much, okay? If you don't, you don't need anything else. You leave right now, that's what you need to do, it's gonna grow your business, okay? So you're gonna have an estate planning attorney, they're gonna come on your podcast. What you're gonna say is, your name, ma'am?
Sarah.
Sarah, you're an estate planning attorney. You are. You just got promoted or demoted, depending on how you look at it. So you're an estate planning attorney. I'm gonna say, Sarah, how many trusts do you have sitting in your drawer right now that haven't been funded? What do you think they would say? A lot. And they do, right? They're like, oh my God, yeah, I've got a whole drawer full of them. They've never been funded. So what do you think they should do? Fund them. They should probably fund them. So here's what ended up happening. So this is the epiphany that happened on this guy's podcast. A week later, podcast drop. Takes us about a week, anywhere from a week to 10 days to get everything done because we custom write everything for you, right? We edit it in post-production. Any of the disclosures and disclaimers that you need to have, because a lot of you have those things that we have to worry about. This guy got a phone call, one of our clients. Hey, Jeremy, listen, I feel really bad. I never told you. I have $500,000 in your bank CD right now that's earning nothing. Because I was supposed to fund the trust. Can you help me with that? Yeah. Come on down. Right? Now, that's going to generate him. Now, he's actually a full-blown, what I call a real financial advisor. So he sells all products and services, whatever's appropriate for his client, not just assets under management, which is fiduciary, which I don't fully agree with. Okay. He ended up making off that $500,000 assets under management, 25 grand. All in, commissions, annuities, blah, 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 right? Great, perfect, that's what the client needed, go. He paid for his whole year of podcasting with that one thing. Whole thing. And that kept happening. Because what we do is we take that estate planning attorney's podcast, and we chop it up into a whole bunch of other pieces, and post that for you on social, because Lord knows you aren't gonna post on social. I've given that to, so many times, and you're so perfect. So I've handed beautiful pieces of art to advisors and say, please post this. People are gonna love it. Okay, I'll get to it. And then you sneeze, and phone rings, and you just forget it. So we now post for you, it's entirely secure, SOC 2, the whole 9 yards. So we post for you to make it so you're gonna actually communicate with your audience, and it helps you build your audience. Next, COIs. We have an entire system called the guest system that estate planning attorney went through a process before they came on Jeremy's podcast. We have a form that they have to fill out, right? Which is bio, headshots, all of those things that we need. And then we say, the price of admission for you to get access to my client base is you have to promise you're gonna share this with yours. So estate planning attorneys generally have a lot more clients than you do because they have a transactional business, right? It's transactional. All of a sudden, that estate planning attorney, that CPA, that real estate agent, that divorce attorney, whoever your COIs are, now will share your podcast with their entire audience. And in social media, you tag them in the post, and now you also notified them that that came out, okay? That is real return on investment. How many estate planning attorneys do you actually want? Let me rephrase the question. How many of you have been consistently giving referrals to an estate planning attorney and not getting reciprocal things? Okay, I mean, everybody, right? I mean, if you've ever referred somebody to a CPA, they're like, oh, here's what they'll say. I don't feel comfortable just referring only to you. Really? Okay, screw you. Get on my podcast, right? Because now the other thing about that's an entirely endorsement and testimony. Because here's the deal. Why would they come on your podcast? They didn't think you were a great financial advisor. Well, they probably wanted access to your audience, right? But the audience doesn't know that. The audience thinks you gotta be great, or why would Jane be on your podcast? Okay, that's it. Now, net new assets is the last one. If you create a true integrated marketing plan, which is what our panel was all about today. So you've got FMG, you've got the website, all of their content services that they create. You've got White Glove, which do seminars and webinars, and you've got us in the middle. Now that was by design because we all together can create integrated marketing, okay? Integrated marketing. Integrated marketing means that it shouldn't be your webinars about this, or your seminars about this, your podcasts about this, and your content's about this. No, it all has to be talking to each other, and most importantly, it all has to be directing to the same place, okay? So here is a live real advisor. So this gentleman right now is listed in the top 10 retirement podcasts in the nation. You can look it up. It is called Retirement Revealed. He's been a client of ours for quite a while. He has a weekly show now. He started off bi-weekly, every other week. We do not recommend that anybody starts with one podcast a week. You are not good enough, you haven't practiced enough, and you will fail. Trust me, we've done 7,000 episodes for advisors, okay? So all of a sudden, he starts his podcast, we multiply his content, then he really narrowed down in his niche. Now he lives in the greater Milwaukee area, and something was happening with Harley Davidson at the time. I don't remember what it was, but it was a big capital deal, okay? So he switched gears just a little bit and started focusing his content for a short period of time, talking about how he helps people understand retirement and focus on Harley Davidson specifically. And he has grown exponentially to the point where he actually works with Thrive Advisor Network. He's had to hire more advisors to really manage the amount of business that's coming in. He has achieved escape velocity because all of his marketing is working together. When he shows up on his podcast, guess what? He knows exactly what he's going to talk about because it happened in a client meeting 3 days ago. All right, Kevin. When you do you like batch your client meetings, or do you like whenever they're? Well, I'm not trying to like shame you, brother. I just want
I batch them on three days a week.
Good. Okay, so like a strategic coach model, you do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or whatever, not Monday to Friday. Okay, great. All right. So during those, I'm assuming that there are things that come out that you're like, oh yeah, I said that again, and I said that again, and I bet you I'm going to say it again. That's a podcast. So once you prime this podcasting pump in your mind, you are going to have so many topics you're never going to run out. So we got a guy who works with our RFG advisory group. His name is David Polsini. He started with us 3-4 years ago now. He's still with us. I think he's either over his 100th episode or he's really, really close. And I saw him at a conference. I was speaking at RFG, and he handed me like a yellow pad, and he just started flipping pages. And I was like, those are all podcast topics from top to bottom. He's like, dude, I can't, this just keeps priming. Because he's in a client meeting. And then all of a sudden he'll look at that list, and of course he's a financial advisor, so he put it in a spreadsheet, and he organized it by keywords. Right? And so now he's got all of these different topics and stuff that are all built out, right? And so now he'll never ever run out of content. It's absolutely fantastic. So anyway, Retirement Revealed is the name of this podcast. I highly recommend that you look at it. But here's the deal. It took him 36 months. He stayed with us for 36 months before he really saw what you all would consider return on investment. Not because of the content itself, the deepening relationships with centers of influence, the increased referability. Before he tracked $1, which by the way, he wasn't asking the right questions, but he talked about on stage. But this is when everything flipped. Everything flipped. He went from marketing being an expense to this being a profit center for his company. And he wants to be a celebrity. And he is on the way to become a celebrity. Now, some of you might not want that. That's fine. Stay in the authority section. That's great. Go. Do it. Whatever you want to be, you just have to have a plan to be able to get there. All right. I don't know about you, but before Mark came along, I did all of the sales for Proud. Okay, so I talk to people like you multiple times a day. When we first started, I was explaining what a podcast was. And that was in 2017, which is weird, but the reality. Okay? Now we come to conferences. People fill out all of our stuff to get into our nurture sequence. They sign up for all of our webinars. We've had people who, for some reason, go to the same webinar 4 or 5 times. Probably because they're hoping to glean something, right? And when they actually set a meeting on Mark's calendar, Mark's job is to see if we're a fit for them, not to sell them something. Because, look, I love all of you being here, and I'm very, very grateful for the time in front of all of you. You all might not be the right fit for us. I get it. So on this sheet of paper, on the back, so flip it over, please. So on the back of this, there are 2 things. If you would like to figure out how to outsource it to a professional who only works with people who work in financial services, which is Proudmouth, that's the top QR. If you want to learn and dip your toe in the water, right? See what this is like. See if it's interesting to you at all. Say you want to get behind the microphone, record a couple of episodes and all of that. Go here. This is free. It's the Pod Rocket Academy. Okay? It is free. Am I going to try to upsell you? Hell yes, I am. I need to be honest, but it's free. And trust me, the stuff that's in there is worth any amount of your time. But most importantly, it doesn't have to be you. Because I made a strategic coach reference earlier. Who, not how. All of you can do this. Should you be? Most importantly, if you have a team member, get them into the academy, have them start learning how to market for you in a compliant manner. That's going to rising tide lifts all boats for your practice. All right? That's it for me. So thank you guys all very much for coming.